Hey guys and gals, Stupid Leader, aka Matthew Red. Welcome to Broke Bucket Garage. Today we are installing a TorkLift EcoHitch on my 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. Let me give you some breakdowns. Here is the kit. TorkLift EcoHitch. This is the hidden receiver, so it'll tuck up underneath the bumper. To do this, we need to remove both taillights, the rear bumper, and the harness for the sensors, and then we can get her installed. We need a T25 for the fender bolts, a T15 for these guys. There's 4 of these around the, sorry for my videographer skills. There's that. And then we just have to be careful taking all these clips out and removing the rear bumper. Let's start with the taillights. Oh, would you look at that? Well, Broke Buckets Volkswagen Summer Jam, August 16th, 2026. LeMay Collections at Marymount, Spanaway, Washington, or also affectionately known as Tacoma, Washington. Alright, first things is we have to remove this vent to access the screw nut for the taillight. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. Wipies, because you never know. Alright, and for these are up in here like so. You're going to pull from the back here to pop it out. And it's the same for this side. You can see the notch out here. Pull down, it pops out. That is our wing nut. That is our wing nut. Don't forget to disconnect your wire harness. And voila! It was a quarter turn on the wing nut and the whole thing just pops out as one unit. Alright, because I just needed to figure out what was going on, I was getting frustrated, we end up, I got taillights out. Again, we've got a T15. T15 at the bottom of the flare is a T25. Oh. T25, T25, T25. As you see, wheel is on. This is lowered. And I'm just doing this on the shop floor. Once those are off, it's getting these to release is kind of sketchy. Got it up to here, and then flathead push down, kind of still wiggle, push down. With these ones I found it better to put the screwdriver in and kind of turn, and it forced it out. So that's this side. I wouldn't recommend keeping your face under the car because all of that came out on my face. Now we're going to do this side, and I'll give you an update on how that goes. Alright, so this side, very easy. T25, 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 and the fender liner, and T25. This is the sketchy part. When you're pulling this, sometimes these don't want to let go. So, broken, nothing. Cracked the corner, and it just would not release. So now, it is what it is. Luckily, this is just my car, so stupid. But I pushed down on this clip, and it immediately just pushed down, and it snapped off. So I did nothing to this except for just push down. So be ready to potentially break clips off of your flare, to possibly do some damage here, but as long as you don't deform or mess up the paint, you should be pretty okay. So at this point, I'm ready to yard this thing off and then disconnect the sensor harness, and then we'll go from there. All right, bumper's off. Put down a blanket so I didn't mess it up too much. This came off very easy, so this bumper's definitely been off before. The harness is these two here. This top one I was able to just push down and it released real easy. This bottom one did not release easily, so I stuck a screwdriver down in the bottom and then forced it, and then that unfortunately popped off at the same time. So yeah, and that goes right there. So be careful when you're disconnecting these. Plastic, it's not fun. But there it is. The rear bumper's off. So we'll get the back end, all the dirt cleaned out of it. Get rid of that bumper bar and start installing the EcoHitch. All right, I'm gonna take and uninstall this. It's a antenna control module. So we take that off. We're just gonna loop that down there. We might have to make a bracket for it later so it still stays in a good spot. We'll see. Next step, I need to remove this bumper bracket. So I believe it's a 13. We're gonna pull this, yard the bar off, and then start test fitting up other things. All right, rear bracket's off. That's a pretty flimsy POS. So that EcoHitch should be a nice reinforcement. So let's get to it. All right, as far as this kit goes, we've got all this wonderful hardware. I'm not going to tell you what all this is, but these are going to get bolted underneath the side of the frame rails. I've already preloaded these. We have to chase these in through the frame and have them stick out. And as we go to tighten it, these plates here are going to lock this in. And we're going to be able to torque this down. So pretty much it'll lock this into the frame rail, and this lock washer will make it so the bolt doesn't spin, and we can tighten the nut on the underside of the car. And that'll go bing bada boom. Things and things. All right, sorry for the quality here. So I was able to fish the wire down through to where that's coming out, tie the wire to the end of the bolt, and then fish it down, pull it through. You're gonna need to do that on both sides. All right, so what we have is the bolt through. We've got our spacer, the bracket itself, flat washer, lock washer, nut. We're gonna do the same thing right here. Now on this one, I can't get the big spacer in here, so I gotta trim out some of the seam sealer back up behind here so I can get it to fit. Okay, we are trimmed out. Now this guy will fit. Oh man, still doesn't fit. All right, that is one side. Had to cut quite a bit of some seam sealer out of this area here to get that big old washer to fit. So that's where we're at. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, so I've got my wire through. I'm going to tie my bolt to this. All right. Ugh. So you got it there. There's a nice little hole right in the back of this, so you can try Get my finger to work right. Doing both of these things is hard. Got it. All right. We've got those in. These are 11/16 US standard, not metric. So there is that, and I just learned that. I had to tighten this down to compress it enough and then disassemble it to get the lock nut onto the lock washer onto this side. So now we're ready for our bar, I think. So one thing I'm going to do is, these are for the factory mounting points. The original bolts I don't feel are long enough. So the one thing I would change is, we're going to take off this little tiny, barely a washer, and we're going to put on a larger washer so you have more spreading load. So I'm definitely going to do that. That with this, it almost barely doesn't even clear that hole. So I don't want the washer getting sucked into the hole. So we're going to go with a larger washer. This is M8, by the way. All right. Bigger washer, lock washer bolt. All of this. We end up going with a serrated bolt, a serrated nut, and a lock washer. This way it locks in nicely. So just kind of upgrading different hardware on this. This is all factory supplied hardware. And now we're going to torque it down per the instructions. The 7/16 hardware is all at 65 foot-pounds, and all M8 is 25 foot-pounds. So these would be 25 foot-pounds, and all the big hardware is going to be 65 foot-pounds. So let's go ahead and go grab that. All right, guys. So this is on. Everything's torqued up. Remember that sensor we were talking about earlier? So I drilled out, so I removed this, so it's 13 millimeter, 413 millimeter nuts. I just laid this down so I can get direct access to the top, and I just drilled out and then put a couple self-tappers into the holes I drilled. And now this is pretty close to where the factory one was. And once I put the bumper back on, we'll see if it clears. But as of right now, I think we are ready to put the bumper back on. All right, guys and gals, so this is how the hidden receiver works. So this is going to be back up behind the bumper, and there's a big open slot under the bumper here, so we'll be able to get back up under this. This guy slots into place. Bolt in. Threaded, and then you're going to torque that down, and then you can use this when you want to use this. When you don't want to use this, just go under the car, remove your bolt, drop your hitch, and then it's hidden. Now remember, we're going to start, we need to plug these into here before we put the bumper on. Sort of set in place. Remember, this snaps into a channel here. And then we have snapped in, snapped in, snapped in. Make sure we're aligned. Locked in, broken. Locked in. Boom. I got to put the T25 back into these spots. Then I can reclip this back in. And then once that's on, the T25 in the bottom and the 3 T25s in the wheel well, then the T15s to hold the bottom of the bumper on. But as of right now, we are hidden. And let's grab this son of a gun. Boom. And can't tell here, but there is, the bolt's going to go up into there. So you have plenty of room to do that. One of my main concerns was whether or not this would clear the bumper, but it absolutely does. So we're good there. Golden. And then when I'm not using this, boop, gone, baby, gone. And also with this rear reinforcement is way sturdier than that one over there. So hopefully I don't get rear-ended, but that'll definitely save more of the car. All right, we've got all the things in on that, onto there, over there, that thing and this thing. Unfortunately, you're gonna plastic stuff breaks. So the little clip that goes up into here, screwing it in and it snapped off the back tab. So I'll have to order another one of those. Now it is taillights back in and turn it on, just make sure none of the sensors are making errors. Taillights back on and vents covers back in. So there we go. So we're not really aligned right there, but it is what it is. There's some new scuffs and scratches from doing this, but you can do it on your floor, in your driveway, with a lowered Tiguan. In your stock height, it'll be much easier. There you go. Boom, baggity boom. Now, that bolt right there that holds the hitch in, torque rating is 130 foot-pounds. So we're going to go under there. Boop, boop. That's got to be torqued to 130 foot-pounds. Anytime you... I'm going to go install this now, and I most likely won't take it back off. But if I don't like how it looks, I will absolutely take it back off until I need to use it. But anytime you need to remove this or you tow, you need to double check that you're at 130 foot-pound torque for this bolt that holds. All right. So that concludes the TorkLift EcoHitch. Hold on a second. The TorkLift Central EcoHitch. So that is. There we go. Now it's just time to go hook something up to it and see how well it does, because it is lowered. Kind of see how much more the rear sags when I'm towing or when I'm not towing. Kind of go with that. So, all right, guys, have a good night. Okay, now here is where you may need to get ramps or something. Torque wrench, bolt area. For me, my car is too close to the ground. I can't get up there to torque that to 130. So having a ramp or putting it up on jack stand or something like that would definitely give you more space. So probably just jack it up and then we're good to go. So, yep. So think about that. How about that them there cookies? All right, guys and gals. At the end of the day, remember when you're done with your project, I'm horrible at this, but put your tools away. Area. Everything's put away. Put it away. I'm ADD AF. I don't put shit away very Anyways, so you guys have a good night. We're wrapping it up for here. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry it's not better quality. I'm not that great, as I stated if you've ever watched the first video on this channel. Broke Bucket, Matt Red, Stupid Leader. Have a good night.